Alright guys, let's go and get started. I'm going to show you how to create a strip lash using the lash tabs. Now, in the last lesson, yesterday's lesson, I showed you how to create from scratch, how to create the lashes for a project, etc. Okay? Today, I'm going to show you how to create a strip lash using the lash tabs. More something that's more, I don't want to say normal, but not as fantasy-like, okay? Something you can use on your mannequin or whatnot. It may be, if it's on a person, for like a photo shoot, something that you'll place on them very quickly and take off. I would not do this type of creating a lash for a client that's gonna wear them. You should just use something that's pre-made. If you have to cut them and stack them, which that'll be the lesson on Thursday, I'll show you how to do that, you can. But if it's for a paying client, you want to use material that's already been produced, done, manufactured, okay? For projects, Skills USA competitions where you do the hair and the makeup and all that, and you're using on the mannequins, or photo shoots for a project or portfolio, something fun like that, yes, you can definitely use these, what you're learning this week to create that, okay? But it is something more that looks more normal. You can obviously jazz it up if you want, but I'm going to show you how to make strip lashes from the lash tabbings. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I have just a piece of paper right here, white piece of paper. I have my mannequin, which I'm going to be measuring with in just a minute. I have my ruler. I have regular tape, double-sided tape, and I'm just going to put fancy tape over just to be fancy. You don't need it though. I have just a strip of paper, and I'm using this glue stick because I like how big it is. I don't necessarily want something that's going to be skinny like I used previously on my marker. I want something that's going to give me a good, so if I cut this down the middle, I have a good curve, and you'll see how we use this in a minute, okay? You'll need some nice sharp scissors, a little applicator. You could use a Q-tip brush, it'll be fine. Your nail glue, I'm sorry, not nail glue. Although if it's for a project, you could use nail glue, but not nail glue, lash glue. This lash glue that I have is what came in y'all's packet pickup kits. This is the white glue. I don't personally like the white glue, especially this one because it has like an iridescent tone to it. But if you have the black one, use the black one. But I don't have the black one here. So, and the ones that I had were already dried up because I haven't used them in a while, the ones I have at home. So I'm using the white glue. But use the black glue, not the clear glue. Use the black glue, okay? It works the best. The duo works the best. Just a marker or a pen or pencil, something to write with. I have a little glue dot for my sticker, a glue sticker for my glue dot that I'm going to put down. I've got my tabs. Now these are the flare long. You could use the short, medium, long, extra long. You could use the ones with the knot, without the knot. The knot is a little bead there on the top. You could use different colored ones, etc. I have a just piece of paper. This is tag board, but any paper is fine. Oh, and I have a thin thread, and it's just white, just regular thread. And then I have, it's not yarn, it's more of, I don't know what you would call it. It's not, I guess this is string, or is this thread? What is the actual proper term for this? Let me see. I don't know the actual I don't sew a lot, but this is a really, I guess this is called thread, and this would be a string. But you see that this one is a lot thinner, and this is thicker. This is a little bit thick for my taste, but we'll be using this one today. What you don't want is a string that falls apart like this one. That's great in colors, especially if you're doing a fantasy type of a color, but this one, it unravels very easily. You see how, I guess it doesn't work if I have everything white in the background. This is shimmer pink, but do you see how it unravels here? Okay, that's not, you don't want it to unravel. So you want something that's nice and tightly rolled together. Okay, but this one is pretty thick and it'll work. Kind of like kite string would be perfect. This one's just a little thick, but it's okay. All right, so that's what we're going to be working with today, and that's what you will be needing for, you don't need the needle. The needle just came in with my thread, but so these are the things that you'll be needing for today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here with our technique. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take my mannequin, my model, right? And I'm going to measure using my ruler. Now, this particular mannequin has really short eyes. They're really small. They're not, the lash line is not long at all. But you would, obviously this ruler is like super huge for this, right? You don't use this kind of ruler on your mat, on your if it's a model, on a model. But I just want to measure, so this is about a good inch from here to here, if this were the mannequin that I were to be using. So it's a good inch from the inside corner of the eye to the outside corner of the eye, okay? I'm going to take my paper. Now this white paper that I have back here is just because you can see the ring light from above on my blackboard, so that's why, and it helps the white balance. So I'm just going to take this paper, just a cardstock paper, okay, and I'm going to measure out an inch. So it's going to be, doesn't have to be straight or anything, from here to here. All right, that is how long I want to make my lash. Now, if it were for, if you're doing two, then do another one side by side. I'm just going to do one for the demonstration, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get my tape ready. I've got my double-sided sticky tape and I've got my regular tape. So I'm going to take my thread, the thin one, okay, and I'm just going to cut a piece. Just take my guard off of my scissors here. I'm just going to cut a piece like so, and I'm going to tape it with my double-sided sticky tape. I'm going to lay down a piece here and lay down a piece here. Now I want to use the back of my applicator. You can use the tip of your scissor. Okay, just to push it down. If you use your finger, then the stick will come off. So I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to lay it over. Okay, and I'm going to push down. Oops. I'm going to push down one side and I'm going to pull so it's nice and tight and stick it down on the opposite side. Try not to do sideways. Don't go up and down because when you go up and down it will roll and it'll pull and not be as tight. Okay? And then you want to take a second one and you're going to leave a space in the middle. So you're going to tape them parallel to each other, but you're going to leave a very thin, small gap for your thicker string to fit on top of. So that one goes good. Oh man. You know what? I'm going to tape. Well, not with double-sided sticky tape. I'm going to tape my, oh yeah, I would tape it down. I'm going to tape this page onto my white paper so it'll stop moving. And then, y'all don't have to do this. I'm just doing this because I've got the cup to cover the board so you don't see the ring light. Okay, but you don't have to do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and come in. I'm going to place my second string. It's not a string, it's a thread. Y'all, I don't know what it's called. The actual term for it, right? I'm going to push it down, grab it on the other end. I'm going to come through and I'm going to pull, making sure that I have the same distance on both sides, okay? And then I'm going to push it down. I'm going to take, because this is round, and if you don't have with this, you can do a marker. I'm going to roll over to make sure that it's pushed down. I don't want to put my finger down because I don't want to lift up the thread, the yarn, string, thread, yarn. It's not yarn, it's a string. Or is it thread? I don't know, y'all. Okay, so I don't want to put my fingers all over it, okay? So for security, I'm going to take my regular tape and, well, let me do this first. I'm going to take my thicker string, take this sticky out of it so it'll come undone. Okay, and then I'm going to place the thicker string in the middle. And see how it's a little too big? It's just a little too big, but it's all right. Sometimes you gotta work with what you got. So I'm gonna place this in between and push down. Now, I'm gonna show you two ways, okay? Place that down, pull, place it down, okay? Then I'm gonna take and it's just to make the band. So the string is gonna be your band, okay, of your lash. You take your regular tape and you're gonna tape down on both sides and make sure that they don't move, okay? Personally, I like to do it a little different. That's the way I learned it, but I like to do it a little different. Okay, I like to do these two, lay down my tabs, and then come over afterwards and then tape it down. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape, so I just have two strings. Take my tape. Now I can push it down and over. Now I want to make sure that so it doesn't move. Oh, that was a bad tape. So it doesn't move, I want to make sure that I cover the outer parts of my double-sided stick tape. Okay, so here, not going to move. Okay. All right, I'm going to prep my glue stick. I'm going to take this paper, put some tape. Now the reason why I want a nice thick surface with a nice curve, and curve my paper here, is because I'm going to set my lashes and let them dry overnight, and when they dry, I want a nice curve. Okay, nice curve. So I'm gonna just roll my paper up, and you can any paper's fine, it doesn't have to be that long. I'm gonna curve my ends here. Just gonna take my finger and just curl the ends. Okay, nice and tight. And then I'm gonna take some tape and just tape it, like so. Okay, there we go. So I have a little cylinder going on here, nice diameter. Okay, when I cut it in half, this curve is where my lash is going to go. Okay, so I have this ready, set to the side. I won't be using my tape anymore for a bit. Okay, done with my ruler and my thread. I've got my glue. I've got my glue sticker with my applicator. Okay, I've got my lash tabs. Pull them out of the box here. again, anytime that you are, throw that staple away so I don't step on it later. Anytime that you have anything, any trash, you know, it is treasure, okay? So I'll be putting up some videos of how to build a salon for competition. So in a business project. So this here is little plastic. Instead of throwing it away, this can serve as so many things. It can be a table, a station, it could be part of a chair, it could be a frame, it could be a shelf, a window, a bookcase. It could be so many things. So don't throw these little trash, I guess you can say. Don't throw these little pieces away because you can definitely recycle them. Okay? All right. So got my 2 strings. I've got my measurements. They're nice and pushed down so that you can just be fancy. We got some cute little tape that I'm just gonna put over so you can clearly see. So there we go, okay? You don't need that, that's just to be fancy. Got my scissors set. Don't need them anymore actually, to be honest with you. I was thinking we were gonna need them, but we don't need them anymore. And then we have this. We're gonna, after we're done, we're gonna tie it around here and we're done as far as setup, okay? Oh, one thing I forgot are tweezers. I knew I was forgetting something. So I'm just going to get my tweezers because I'm going to apply my lash tabs onto the stubble parallel string. So let me grab those and we'll get started. All right, now I have my tweezers. So because, now it depends, if your lashes per se are going to be flared this way, then you hold your tabs this direction. You're going to grab your tab one at a time and you're going to just set it down going this direction. Now if you're creating your lash away from you, then you hold your tabs away from you as well going that direction. You're going to grab the tab, grab the same one, and then you're going to place it down going that direction. So depending on which way you want your lash to go, your tabs are going to be facing the same direction. So I'm going to place them towards me. Okay? You have to decide what's the inside and what's the outside. So this is the inside center of the eye. Okay, this is the ear, right? And if this is the nose, that's a funky nose, right? Wow, that's a really bad nose. But anyway, then know that it's going to go from short to long. Okay, so if you're using, now these are all just long. But if you're using short, medium, long, then you go short, medium, long, just as we are doing lash tabbing on a client, just as we have previously learned, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take my sticker and I'm just going to stick it down. I'm going to add some glue. Now remember, a little bit of glue at a time. Oh, and with these kinds of glues, just always making sure to wipe the tip off before you close it so that way it doesn't get stuck in here, okay? Always wiping the rim of your containers, no matter what product it is. But, so the glue, remember that it cures on the outside, so dip in the middle, okay? So let's go and get started. So I'm going to go from the inside out, just because they're all the same length. I'm going to take my lash, I'm going to dip it in, and I'm going to apply it on the top of the 2 strings. Okay, you want to make sure that is nice and straight. Now, when you're pushing down over the glue area, don't use the tip of the tweezer. Use the back of the tweezer, just so that way, see how it got stuck on there? Just so that way it doesn't get stuck on the tip. Once your tip is dirty with glue, or it's not dirty, but just once it has glue on there, then everything's going to get stuck to it. You have to constantly clean it, okay? So when you pull your tab, now remember, we got to respect your spacing. You want to make your the tips of the lashes on the sides, you want them to touch. So you have to practice your spacing just as we did our regular lash tab technique. okay, on a person. When you're creating your lash, it's the same thing, except you're just creating it instead on string instead of creating it on a person. So that way, by the time you get to the end, this is dry, then you can head down the middle and build up the strip as strong or as heavy or voluminous as you like, okay? Keeping in mind, you're gonna have to use more than the 552 method that we learned because there's no pre-existing lashes on here. So it'll look very empty if you just use a little bit, okay? So a little bit of fans, clusters or tabs, however you want to call them. So when you're going to pull from here, remember, take your pinky, put your pinky on your on this tray, okay, to balance. Take the bottom of the tweezer, put it underneath the tab, go from the underneath part of the tab, okay, slide it under, get as close to that head as possible. Pull gently. You don't want to crease the lash, so be gentle. Lay it down, okay, and then those two tips are touching to make that V. The more practice that you get, and again, it's kind of like using that practice card, okay? The more practice that you get, the better you are. Sometimes, now look at this one, I'm gonna show you this one. Okay, you see that? How it kind of like, what happened to it, right? Sometimes the glue is really stuck on there, or you accidentally just grab two or one lash and it kind of just comes apart. So this is a no good lash anymore. You can try to save it, but if it's especially on a client, it's just not worth it. That's why you want to put your tweezer in at the bottom. You want to clamp it gently and pull. That way you can be careful not to damage the tab, okay? So here I'm coming to the end, okay? Alrighty. Now, if you have now I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna go in between. Now, if you have too much space between your thread, okay, then the lash will get stuck to the paper instead of being stuck to the thread or the yarn. String, it's not yarn, it's string, okay? So be aware of your application whenever you're applying the string onto the paper. Should be parallel, should be nice and tight, but you also want to make sure that it's not too spaced out, okay? So I just put my second layer in between, and I'm going to come in, and now I'm going to go in between those. So this is my third layer, and I'm going in between those. So 3 layers, going in, tapping, and applying. Okay, so I'm going to continue this method all the way through, making sure that I've got plenty of glue on the bead, on the head of that tab. Okay, I'm going to finish this up and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I went ahead and applied my third layer. So if you wanted to, you can apply a fourth layer or you can continue. These are all they're all the same length, so they're all straight across. There's no short to long, although you can cut them to create that. And then there's lengthwise in between, there's some little empty hollow spaces because it's all the same length. If you had medium to short tabs that you can go long on the bottom, medium in the second layer, short on the top layer, third layer, then you would have more darks filled in, more of the white spaces filled in dark because of the lash flares. And then of course at the base it would look a little different. So, and the flare of course up here at the tip. So keeping in mind when you're creating a lash strip from lash tabs from scratch, you want to pay attention to what kind of flare and length that you're using, okay? There are some flares that are narrow, right? Some that are medium and some that are extreme, so keep that in mind as you're doing so. So I'm going to take a few minutes, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes to come back. When this is completely dry, then we'll move on to the next step. So go ahead and pause your video here, let your lashes dry, and then we'll come back in just a second. All right, once your lashes have dried, what you want, or once you think they've dried, what you want to do is take the back of your tweezer and you're going to move gently, tap on the double string. So see on this side, they're pretty dry to start on this side, but on this side, it was still a little wet when I pushed it, and some of the lashes came out of line, so I had to add a little bit more glue. But when I push this string down, it's still wet. Okay, so, and the lashes all kind of move back and forth apart from each other. On this side, they all move together. So you can see that on this side. See how these little ones fell a little bit? So these are ready to go. So the glue is not set yet. So you want to make sure that is completely dry. If your lashes fall out of line, go ahead and get your tweezers and just pull them out and push them back. But when you push them back, don't just push them. Make sure that they are on top of the string. They have to be on top of the strings. And whoops, if you pull them off, no big deal. Okay, all you have to do is just add a little bit more glue and then just place them back in their spot. You want to make sure though that as you're doing this, just be careful, because remember that you put them in layers. And if you pull the bottom lash, it's going to pull the two top layers off with the lash that you're pulling. So you definitely want to be careful in maneuvering and handling the lashes as you're trying to get them to dry. Okay. Another thing too, you'll see, and maybe it's hard to see on the video, but the iridescent glue, when it's wet, it still it kind of looks like almost a bluish color. But when it's dry, you won't be able to see it as much anymore. So the reason why the black glue is best if you're using these color fiber lashes, right, the tabs, the black, is so that you won't see the string. Because right now it's drying, because I use the white, it kind of dries a little bit clear, and you can see the string. So you want to keep in mind, I just used white string because it's what I had, but if you're using black string, okay, and thread, that would be best if you want it to match and have a nice thick band like you have with these. If you are doing blue lashes, okay, maybe you want to use blue string, or if you're using, if you're doing white lashes for like a snow queen or something, then white string and thread and white adhesive is best. If you're doing blue, pink colored, different colored lashes, black glue doesn't work, because then you have a big old black band right over the top of your lashes. You want it to blend, so you want to use clear or the white adhesives, okay, that dry clear. You always want to keep that in mind as you're doing your designs to make sure that the end result is going to look the best for your look. All right, once your lash, the band has been dried, okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to take the thicker. Now I really think this is just a little too thick now that I'm looking at it. It's just, I didn't have the other kind, but it's more the kite thickness of the string, okay? So I'm just gonna use another one of these strings, no big deal. So I'm gonna take another one of these, okay, I'm gonna cut them. Said I was done with my scissors, wide, okay? And now I'm going to place that over the top. Right on top. Now your glue should be tacky, but not sticky. Shouldn't stick. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tape. Can't find the end to it. There it goes. Okay. I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to tape it down. And I'm going to pull. And it's right in between, so I can see on the sides, it's in between my other two first strings or threads. okay, when I tape it down. Now I did go ahead and while I was waiting, I peeled my tape, my normal tape, not the double-sided sticky tape, but the normal tape, because in a little bit we're going to peel that off. So once that I've placed that there, I'm going to take another little bead of glue. Oop, that was a lot. Take a little bit of glue, okay? Then I'm going to take my applicator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, from the center, now remember I have a bead of glue that's already dried on the bottom. So be careful not to get any chunks of glue. So I'm working on the top bead, and I'm going to pick up my little bit of glue on my applicator. You can use a Q-tip, bobby pin, you know, anything is fine. And I'm going to drop a layer of glue. Now I want my glue to cover all of the little bulbs of the, or the knots or heads of the lash tabs. I want to cover them. And I want to cover the string on the corners on the both sides, the top and the base. So I want to make sure that when this is completely dry, I have a nice strong band across my lashes, okay? Now I want this to, this is the part that's gonna take a while, okay? So you have to be patient with it. So I'm adding the glue, okay? I am sandwiching my two bottom threads with my lashes and the top thread. Okay, so it's two and then one in the middle with my lashes in between. So this big chunk of glue that I've added, okay, is the band. Okay, I want my band to dry, not completely, but I want it to dry enough to where I can pull the strings that they're stuck together. If I pull the strings, they won't come apart, okay? But I want them to dry enough to hold, but not all the way to where I can't mold the band. Because what I'm going to do next, I'm going to let it dry a little bit. I'm going to pull these tapes off together. Now, the tapes need to stay together, okay? Because if not, it can come apart and then it'll pull and tug sideways, and then it'll tug on the lash strips. So you have to make sure it's a little dry, and that way it has some already started to adhere. So you're gonna pull, and you can pull it together should you choose. Mine's not dry yet, but just to show you, I'm gonna pull, hold it here, pull. So see, my strings are sandwiched here on the tape, okay? Now, should you choose, you can cut the tape, or what I do is I just fold it like this, okay? And now we're good. This isn't gonna move, okay? Although this moves, this doesn't move, so it doesn't pull sideways this way, okay? So let's go ahead and do that on both sides, and then I have this ready to go, okay? So let's pull, and now this is not all the way dry, but I'll go ahead and pull it. I'm gonna hold here, make sure I don't pull sideways. I've got my strings that are sandwiched together. I'm gonna bend it, and we're good, okay? So what you could do is you can cut these pieces of tape. Just don't cut the string, because you want the string to be sandwiched, okay? So I've got my curve here. I'm going to very carefully, now remember, because it's stuck to the paper as well, you're going to pull sideways and pull up. Nope, mine is still too dry, too wet. If you pull up and of course I didn't let it dry at all. If you pull up and it starts to come apart, the double-sided sticky tapes are here, so you can pull the string this direction away from each other, push down on the double-sided sticky tape, and just let it dry. What you want is when you're pulling the lash up, the strip is dry. If it's still a little bit, should be still a little bit wet. When you're pulling it up, the string shouldn't come apart. It should stick together. You don't want it to be completely dry yet though. So you want to pull, and then what you're going to do, and I'll show you here. And I'll show you with this lash. See if it'll stick on here. The goal is that you want your lash around this curved surface, because what it's going to do is it's going to give it a nice curve. You see there? Okay. If I leave it like this, it's just flat, which is okay. Okay, it's fine. Mannequins just lay still, and you can hot glue gun the lash to the mannequin, or you can use other kinds of glues, pin them, whatnot, and it'll stay, right? But if you're using it on a model, or if you just want more, or your mannequin just has more of a curved eye than a flat eye, then you need a curve. So if I put it on a thick glue stick like this, then when the glue is still wet, right, it's got this curve, it's going to finish drying. When it finishes drying and then you take this off, it's going to have a curve naturally to your lash, to the band, okay? So let's say that this was my lash that I created, right? And I've got my 2 strings, right, like this. And this is what it looks like, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strings and I'm going to tie them in the back. If you don't want to tie them or the strings are too short, just take the 2 ends and you're going to roll or rotate like so. Get it nice and tight, okay? And then you're going to put some tape. Let me get my tape. You're going to put some tape here. Oh, I picked up my staple from earlier. And just tape it down, okay? So that way you let that dry overnight and now you have a curved lash. In the morning, the next day, 24 hours later, your lash glue won't take that long to dry, but I would leave it that long to set. Okay, so you make sure you have a nice, good little curl there. So I'm gonna pull that over. Okay, so once you're done in the morning, okay, whenever you, or the next day, whenever you're ready, you untie this, and you're just gonna cut the very tip edges of the string, and then there you have it. You have your lash, okay? So you can do this technique with creating your strip lashes with your lash tabs. You can also add different fibers to, if you're going to do it this way, you can add different fibers to this. You can add glitter, feathers. Tomorrow we're going to be learning how to create paper lashes for the actual lash itself, or for accents to add to already made false lashes or to your own false lashes that you've created. And then Thursday we're going to learn how to stack our lashes. So Friday we're going to be learning how to add feathers, because there's particular things about feathers that you've got to understand with the weight and direction and length for the eye. And then we're going to be working with glitter as well. Okay, so we're going to let this dry, and once it's dry, again, you're going to do this to your lash and all done. Now, once your lash is dry, don't cut it now because it's still wet, and don't cut it when you recently put it on here. Okay, you have to wait for it to dry completely before you take it off of the string and the little knot here. What you want to do with the curve, okay, you want to go ahead and you want to take your scissor and point cut the angle. Now, if this is the inside of the nose area and this is the outside of the ear area, then it's going to go from short to long. So this here, I would make it from short to long, but just don't cut it when it's straight. Cut it when it's curved, because a straight and a curved line, when you cut them, they're completely different, okay? So keep that in mind as you're going along. And that is how you create your lashes. Now remember, if you want a thicker lash, you can continue and just keep building. After you do 2 strings, your lash tabs, 1 string. Then do a second layer, okay? You repeat the process over the top of this, I would do 2 more strings, lashes, 1 more string. So you can layer as much and many as you want depending on how big and thick your lashes were. If you were using lash tab fibers and they were this long, okay, or you created your own tabs and they were this long, and you wanted to do something like this, that's not with a glue gun, okay, band, you wanted to do something of the sort, then you just have to make sure to have a good strong band and good strong foundation. So you might have to do 2 or 3 layers of this technique to get a good lash, okay? All right, so that's how you create your lash, creating it using your lash tabs. Hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing what you create for your project this weekend. Thanks for watching. All right, wait, sorry, I forgot. We're gonna pull this off, okay? Pulled my string off. I ended the video and I was like, okay, bye. And then I thought, wait a second, I didn't show this part on this. So once you pull your lashes off, you're then going to place them here and wrap them, okay? Nice and tight. Make sure the lines are horizontal. Twist it. And then add your piece of tape. Have your stuff ready so you're not having to reach over and whatnot, okay? And there are your lashes. Now, remember, that's still semi-wet. You want it to be semi-wet. You don't want it to be completely dry. So what you want to do is you want to push the lashes upward, fan them out as needed, okay? If anything gets out of place, just push it in. Remember that it is glue, it's still wet, so if you get any glue on your fingers or your tools, when you're doing this, wipe it off. That way stuff doesn't get stuck, okay? Then what you want to do is you want to come back in and you want to make sure that as you pulled from your paper to here, things have shifted. So you want to come in and make sure to push them in the proper direction, okay? If they went to the left, push them to the right. If you had any spaces, make those adjustments, push them up, push them down. Whatever you need to do to make sure your lashes are looking the way you want. Now, as you are placing it, it's going to be pretty flat to the glue, okay, to the surface. So you want to push upwards, okay? If you want gravity to help you a little bit, instead of standing it up this way with the flares going down, do it upside down. That way the gravity will help pull those lashes down some, and it'll give you a nice flare. So see here, they're upside down. So I would just let it dry like that, okay? And then, like I said, then in the morning or the next day, 24 hours later, you take your tape, trim them up, take your tape off, and then they're ready for you to use. Okay. Remember how we talked about the glue? You can still see the white string, so using the black glue, you'd be able to see a black line of the band like that instead of the little tabs with the white string peeping through. All right. Okay, now we can end the video. Thanks for watching.